On July 5th, 1946, the world was never the same again. What? Because that's the day that this two-piece swimsuit was unveiled to the world. So let us take a look at how the bikini came to be and how it changed the world forever. At the time, people thought it was outrageous. But today, well, we can't even imagine what women wore before the bikini. And that's not just because we're weird degenerates. That's because the bikini revolutionized women's swimwear forever. His plan was to create a swimsuit so shocking that newspapers would have no choice but to print stories about it. And boy, did he accomplish that. And if you're wondering what women wore before the bikini, they either went for these one-piece affairs or these... He opened up a factory, hired 25 seamstresses, and started producing the world's first mass-produced bikinis. Unfortunately, though, despite the publicity stunt being a success, the bikini itself fell flat. Women didn't buy it. Louis Réard was a French engineer who designed a plane propeller. Not only does it look like a child's toy, but it also looks like it was designed by a man who has never seen a woman in his life. And the French police were especially upset. They hated how much skin it showed. And they hated it even more when a famous French actress named Micheline Bernardini wore one in a movie. The first Miss World contest was held in 1951, and contestants were required to wear a two-piece swimsuit for the first time ever. Just a few years later, men's magazines started featuring models in bikinis, and it was one long before they became popular among dudes as well. And a year later, Brigitte Bardot would wear a bikini in a French film called Manon des Sources. It was a critical and commercial success. They believe it is too revealing and goes against their morals. And other groups believe it promotes unrealistic beauty standards. But regardless of what people think, the bikini isn't going anywhere. And that would be pretty lame. Just imagine how boring your Instagram feed would be if everyone was wearing one of these. Sorry, nobody wants to see that. You can even go to the beach and see families wearing matching swimsuits. Families! Man! Who knew? Men did too. Suddenly, men could buy magazines and newspapers that featured scantily clad women on the cover. And they could watch movies where the female stars wore bikinis. It was a whole new world. Sure, people may make some new ones that leave even more to the imagination than the old ones. But we digress. Religious groups and conservative politicians oppose the bikini tooth and nail. The bikini is more than just a piece of clothing. It is a symbol of freedom, sex appeal, and feminine power. It allows women to show off their bodies without having to worry about being judged, and it gives men a sneak peek at what's underneath. No wonder it's so popular. They believed it was immoral and went against traditional values. But the bikini didn't care. It marched on regardless. If you did, please like the video. We'll see you next time. The point is, they aren't going anywhere. We are so used to seeing women in bikinis that it seems normal. After all, it was a luxury item. But as it grew in popularity, prices came down and soon everyone could afford one. Today, you can find bikinis at almost any store that sells swimwear. And they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. But remember, not that long ago, it was considered outrageous. They weren't happy about this, to say the least. So they banned the bikini. They believed it was immoral. And if it was going to be shown in France, it needed to be approved by the Ministry of National Education. So, needless to say, no one made the cut. And when they went swimming, they were no exception. But the bikini changed all that. It allowed women to show off their bodies without having to worry about being judged. But that's exactly what happened. While women looked at these things and said, I want to jump into that ocean and never come back, men looked at him and said, well, that's pretty neat. Now let me show all my friends. And they did. Denmark, Italy, Spain, and Portugal all banned the bikini in the late 40s and early 50s. Some believed it was offensive to public morals. Others claimed it was a health hazard. And some just didn't like how revealing it was. But after seeing the U.S. drop two atomic bombs on Japan, he knew his days of designing propellers were over. In fact, he knew his days in general were numbered unless he did something big. And when they wore it, people couldn't help but notice. He started working with nylon and rayon to make stretchy fabrics that conform to a woman's body. And then he started experimenting with different cuts and styles. Before long, he had created dozens of different bikini styles, and women couldn't get enough. Soon the bikini was everywhere. Newspapers, magazines, movies. There was no escaping it. And with visions of the apocalypse dancing through his head, he decided to design the most bombastic swimsuit he could think of. In hindsight, this wasn't the best idea he had. But luckily for us, he went ahead with it anyway. He wanted to make a bathing suit that would turn heads and break the mold. The modern one-piece swimsuit had been around since the 1920s, and it left very little to the imagination. It took him 4 months to perfect it. But once he was satisfied, he marched his creation down the runway in Paris, and as expected, the press ate it up. Magazines and newspapers ran cover stories about this newfangled bathing suit. They called it everything from audacious to audacious, and it got so much attention that people started calling it the atom bomb of fashion. It was basically just a skin-tight leotard. And while this might seem tame today, back then it was considered scandalous. So in order to get people to buy his new invention, Reed had to do something crazy. He began by creating a prototype out of 400 pieces of fabric. And as soon as the papers started running the story, Louis knew his moment had come. And there's an obvious reason why they didn't buy it. Take a good look at it. Bikinis were mocked across Europe. People were angry that anyone would expose so much skin. Despite this, though, the bikini still managed to make its way around Europe and into the hands of Hollywood. And all the while, Louis Réard continued making improvements. But as the bikini grew in popularity, so did the backlash against it. And soon it was banned in multiple countries. But despite all the pushback, the bikini had taken the world by storm, and nothing was going to stop it. And suddenly every woman in the world wanted a bikini, but she wasn't the only one. Men wanted them too. Today, you can find them on magazine covers, billboards, TV shows, and movies. Of course, not everyone loved the bikini, and some people still don't. Today, many religious groups oppose the bikini. They've become the standard for swimwear, and there's no chance that will change anytime soon. And honestly, that's probably for the best. If Louis Réard had never designed his bikini, we might still be wearing those bulky one-piece suits that covered everything. The bikini revolutionized the way women dress. For decades, women had been forced to wear heavy, uncomfortable clothing when they went out in public. And it wasn't just women who benefited from this new freedom. Of course, not everyone was happy with the changes the bikini brought. And today, it is impossible to imagine life without it. When the bikini first hit the scene, it was only available to the rich. But no matter what style you prefer, we can all agree on one thing. The bikini is here to stay. We hope you enjoyed learning about the history of the bikini.